And this is one that I can't tell you how excited I am about this. Contact has some of the best production and industrial design you will ever see in films. This scene is about Jodie Foster taking a leap of faith. It's the first time she has to remove herself from her dogmatic belief in science and face up to the possibility there's more. In order for her psychology to go through that journey, she has to have a metaphorical rebirth. Now, in this scene, as designers, we now need to show the audience through the cinematic filter and the design filter the emotions that she's now facing when looking at these industrial design items. In the second part of this scene, she has to step into the unknown. There's no going back at this point. She is alone. Our designs need to reinforce this isolation on her. And in the third act, we need her to leave behind her unhealthy scientific dogma, take a leap of faith, and come to a cathartic rebirth and be rewarded and saved. Journey to this chair, our journey to find new worlds, it should feel like this. She's going to discover new places, like the Apollo missions. We've even got the same tunnel, but it's a rebirth scene, so we need to execute her. So these subconscious associations, this is about building in the idea that she's basically going to die. I just want you to see that this vest has other intonations, and those other intonations are Joan of Arc and a knight's armor. So she's going off on a quest, and she's a martyr, and she's a saint, and let's not forget that saints died for their beliefs. She's not just a scientist on a journey. Her own inner journey requires that we get these associations. Getting here is some new associations. Now, when you see her crossing this bridge, do you think it's a coincidence that the two assistants just stand there in that particular position? Do you think they forgot to follow her and then the director couldn't be bothered to reshoot that scene? Or do you think that we're supposed to be getting some metaphorical subconscious associations, such as walking the plank? And this association makes it a lot more threatening for her. If she's walking the plank, the associations we're getting here are circling sharks. Look at the movement. There's associations with guillotines, and there's also associations with kraken. Now, when you watch those spinning things in the next scenes, just pay attention to how they look like tentacles, like octopuses, the way they spin. We get our first glimpse of the chair. Now, I would posit to you that given that we're in a rebirth scene and she's about to be executed, that we need to build associations with an electric chair. They plug her in. You actually saw her get plugged in. She's locked into this chair. Does she look empowered and like somebody that's, about to go on a really good journey? Or does she look like a quadriplegic? Now, you only design those kind of controls when you literally have somebody who can't actually move their arms. And then add to that she's in something that represents a gas chamber.
Magnetic restraint is secure. All life support functions are normal.
Roger that. Ellie.
This is Control. Do you copy?
Ellie to Control, reading you 5 by 5. I'm ready.
Dynamics is...
I can confirm the walkway retraction. visual on the door?
IPV escape system is armed.
Door is looking good.
Door alignment looks good.
So she's gone from being outside of a bank vault that looks like a gas chamber. Bank vaults hold very valuable things. She gets into this thing, gets plugged into an electric chair, and then gets sealed up in a tomb. All of these things are associations with dying, because she's about to go through a psychological and emotional rebirth. I now want to draw a bit of attention to the costume design here. If you had to make a subconscious association of danger and, death, bomb shelter wardens, you only ever see them in any narrative in moments where people are about to get destroyed by bombs. And there's these creepy associations that come with them. They're in these black cloaks. Their color scheme has been selected on the basis that it represents something very, very evil. Now, this is all happening subconsciously because on the conscious level, we've already committed that these guys are good guys. But if everything in the subconscious design is there to suggest unease, then we can build tension in the audience. Now, these are the subtle design decisions I'm talking about. We're encoding things in the design that you're not supposed to see consciously.
We are at 30%.
Copy that, 30%.
It's that Kraken reference I was talking about.
How you doing in there, Al?
Now listen to the language being used.
Is that you?
That's a big affirmative.
Who let you in there, huh?
A higher power intervened.
Oh, I'm glad you came.
It's a very subtle thing, but even the language being used, we are forced, our brain has no choice but to generate all of the associations that it can think of with the material that it's being given. And it's being given thematic wording that represents religious overtones.
Something's happening.
Language here, listen again.
I'm... There's a light. Do you see that? I'm seeing something. I can't tell whether it's daylight or not. There it is again. It's coming from the bottom. The material is changing. It's bordering on translucence. The system's intact. There's got to be some kind of electromagnetic field. Are you reading this?
Negative. We're seeing only interference.
Becoming translucent. I can't describe it. I can't even explain it.
She's trying to marry science to the things that she's seeing. She's saying, I can't explain it, I think it's electromagnetic. She's still trying to cling to science when clearly there's something very spooky happening. The metal is becoming translucent. That doesn't happen in the real world. This language is important because it shows us what our industrial design is supposed to be supporting.
4, 3, 2.
The language that she's using when she gets dropped by the machine is, oh God. And she gets dropped and then she goes through a sequence, what you would expect to see when you see the light and you go through the long tunnel. This design is operating on so many goddamn levels, I'm actually in awe of what they've achieved here.
Another wormhole! This was much more violent!
Look at the position and the pose of that chair. Look how angry and aggressive and tantrum-like it is. And then, when we face it straight on and she looks at it for the first time and has to face herself and sees this angry, annoyed, dogmatic scientist, it's like a clutching hand because it doesn't want to be left behind. Now, this journey that she's going on is an inner journey. This is representing that painful thing that we all go through when we actually have to change ourselves a little bit inside, how much that part of you that's clinging to something doesn't want to be let go of. What that thing is for her is that scared little girl from when her dad died in the first scene. So our chair here, the entire industrial design setting of that space, isn't arbitrary. It isn't down to what looks cool. It's down to symbology. It's down to metaphorical references. Now, if you start to approach your design on the basis of A, yes, I need to make it work, but B, I really need to lace it with some sort of meaning, you suddenly have a new constraint for your design process. Contact is a masterpiece, and it's filled with this stuff. Every scene has been considered.